So we all know and probably love Patrick Gower, good old Paddy Gower.
Yeah.
And he has recently been calling out subscription companies for their unfair practices.
Yeah, and he's actually calling for government action for them to intervene and do something about this issue because he's seeing it as a pretty widespread problem.
Welcome to Checks and Balances. This is Jess, and I'm Makayla, and today we're talking about subscription theft.
This is a growing problem in New Zealand. I asked around a few of my friends to see if they had some of the same experiences that I have with subscriptions, and I know it's such an easy trap to fall into. So it's really important that we all arm ourselves with the knowledge and don't get caught up in this.
I think theft is maybe a bit of a strong word, but with all of the companies out there that are on subscription-based models now, like even some that you wouldn't think of.
Oh my gosh, funny story. This is one of the things that came out of the group chats. My friend Corbin, he accidentally subscribed to a measuring tape app.
What?
Yeah, and you know how you get a measuring tape for free on your iPhone?
No, but anyway.
Well, you do. FYI, everybody, there's a measuring tape app on your phone. He accidentally subscribed to a measuring tape app that was charging him $10 a week.
What?
I know. And they made it so hard to get out of. And they just wore him down to the point where he was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I think later on in this episode, we're going to name and shame some companies. So maybe we can shame whatever the measuring tape app is. So we have some juicy stats on subscriptions here that the lovely Emily has put together for us. 1 in 5 Kiwis pay for services they don't use at all.
Are we doing this? Is either of us doing this? I think I pay, I use for everything that I pay.
I don't think I do if I actually think about it. I'm thinking about streaming services mostly because even Netflix now I don't use very much, but I still pay for it because maybe once in a while I might click into it.
Yeah.
And I know you always say, that subscriptions don't make or break the budget. However, if you've got your measuring tape app, your streaming apps, all of these things, that could be $50 a month coming out of your budget.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to touch on this today. Caveat to this, these are not needle movers. Again, over the long term, it's not stuff that's going to be it's not like you're going to retire 5 years earlier because of your measuring tape app, yes or no. But I do think we do speak to so many clients who are really in a point of their lives where they've got young kids and they're paying a mortgage and maybe they're down to one income because of maternity leave or whatever it is. And cash is really tight. You could be at a point in your life where cash flow is quite tight and adding all this stuff up does make a really big difference. So that's why it's important to talk about.
So nearly a third of Kiwis spend over $100 a month on subscriptions. And if you're talking about young families or people that have saving for a goal, the $100 a month, that could be maybe your coffees or fun things. Not, you're literally just throwing it away if you're not using that service.
Light $100 on fire a month. Yeah. That's what we're looking at.
Ooh, don't want to think about that. More than a quarter have 6 or more paid subscriptions. And only 17% of people know how many companies store their card details. What do you think about that?
This is a scary one. I know my dad's real, he doesn't give his credit card details to anyone. And I always laugh. I'm like, come on, man. Chill out. I'm a bit fast and loose with my credit card details. But it's going to come back to bite me one day.
Financial advisor.
Yeah. It's going to come back to bite me one day probably. But I do know that a lot of banks now have these digital card details, which stops you from having to actually give your physical card details out every time. You can go in the app and it's quite a cool new feature for security. Could be something to look into. I think the most essential services that we look at when we're talking about subscriptions are content streaming. So things like I've got Disney, Netflix and
Neon?
No, Neon. Apple. Apple. And I do use all 3 of them, to be fair. But I get a lot of joy from them.
Big streamer. Big streamer energy. Music streaming?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've got Spotify. Do you have Spotify?
I have Spotify and I'm an Apple Music person.
You have both?
Sorry. I'm not sure why, but in my brain, it just makes sense that I listen to my podcasts on Apple and I listen to my music on Spotify. I know there's no logic there, but that's
you get
just
podcasts for free on Apple. Podcasts are free on Apple.
Yeah.
So you're not paying for Apple Music.
You're right. Sorry, scratch that, everybody. I don't pay for that.
I was about to say it would be a real hot tip for budgeting and saving some money otherwise. And the other one, computer software like Microsoft, Adobe. I don't pay for any of that.
Oh.
Work pays for that.
Yeah.
But some people do.
Most valued subscriptions among millennials. What do you think those are? We're both millennials, I think.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Well, Netflix has got to be in there.
Probably.
Yeah.
Neon?
I don't
Love
have Neon.
Island? No.
Nah.
Shame.
Not for me.
Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, people have a lot of subscriptions. They're in and around our lives. We have to be aware of them and make sure we're tracking and understanding what we're spending on this stuff.
So we all know and probably love Patrick Gower, good old Paddy Gower.
Yeah.
And he has recently been calling out subscription companies for their unfair practices.
Yeah. And he's actually calling for government action for them to intervene and do something about this issue because he's seeing it as a pretty widespread problem.
There's one company in particular that he has been calling out quite actively in the media. And I think we will talk about that after the break.
Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, I probably should be reviewing my spending, we can help you with that. We are holistic financial advisors. We'll help you review your budget, look into the future, see how it's going to impact you over the long term. Click in the show notes to find out more. Now back to the show.
So as promised, we said we were going to name and shame a few companies as Mr. Paddy Gower has been doing in the media. And I think we need to start with the one he's pointed out, HelloFresh.
Yes, and I love HelloFresh. I used them when I was in the UK a lot
and
did not have this problem. So I'm interested to hear about it.
Paddy Gower's investigation uncovered numerous complaints against HelloFresh, the main one being a reactivation of their subscription without their explicit consent. So
how is that even allowed?
Right? So how this is happening, I guess, is that people were, you cancel your subscription, like whatever. I'm not using it. I don't know what the reason is. And sometimes companies will try and get you back. Like they'll just bombard you with emails or whatever. Like,
they'll be like, come back.
We can do better.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're sending out vouchers to people to, have a free box on us kind of thing. But what that was doing was actually reactivating their subscription once they claimed
which was not clear in the terms of the voucher.
So they're in the hot water because they were essentially like, imagine you're like, okay, it's my free box. And then next week, another one turns up and you're like, well, where'd that come from?
Because
and then you find out,
$150.
you paid the $150.
It is disappointing because I really like HelloFresh, their product, and had a good experience with them. It's like if you just chilled out and backed yourself and backed your product.
Chill out.
Just chill out. Then you're not going to be in this.
Yeah.
You're not going to get this bad publicity.
They do have very aggressive marketing, I will say. Like I did use them for a while when we first moved from Canada to New Zealand, and we were just like trying to figure out life. Everything was chaotic. So the last thing you want to think about is like making meals throughout the day.
That's great.
And when I did cancel, I found I didn't have this specific issue, but I just found it was like really hard to get away from them. Like they were constantly like mailing us stuff, emailing us stuff, or like you sign up for other things and then all of a sudden they're in your inbox again with like, you signed up for this. Here's a free box.
HelloFresh thing. It gives you the ick, a brand ick.
Brand ick.
I had that when I was moving home from the UK as well. We were with Virgin. This is not a subscription. I guess it kind of is. We were with Virgin for our internet. And it took me 3.5 hours on the phone and 10 different transfers of the call. So they kept on being like, yeah, I'll move you to this team. 10 times that happened.
But they do that so you get sick of it and then you stay. They do.
I honestly, it was just like they're wearing me down. 3.5 hours I spent, and my flatmates could hear me in the stairwell. And I honestly, like, I'm not somebody that yells at people very often, but I got to the point where I was so frustrated, and I finally got to this guy who was like, yep, I'll let you go. I'm like, I'm literally moving country. You guys are never going to see me again. Like, stop. Like, it's outrageous.
I think my worst subscription experience, it was a gym membership, which I'm still going to say is a subscription. And
can we name them? We've got to name them.
We have Anytime Fitness. We have that here, right?
Yeah.
This was in Canada though. They had, I had signed up for like I think a year-long membership because then it's a cheaper monthly increment, and I was in uni. I needed it to be cheap. And I wanted to cancel, but I couldn't cancel because I had locked into a whole year.
Yeah.
And the only way you could get out of it was to evidence that you were moving somewhere that was like outside of 50 kilometers of an Anytime Fitness. Like, who is going to drive 50 kilometers to the gym?
That's so funny.
It was insane. However, I was successful because I had moved from a town that was like in the middle of nowhere in Canada. There was no Anytime Fitness anywhere near there.
Yes.
And I had not changed one of my IDs. The address still said that town. Yeah. So I went in and I was like, hey, I'm moving to this town.
To the middle of
and it's in
nowhere.
The middle of nowhere. And they were like, oh yeah, no problem. Like immediately canceled.
Oh boy. Sometimes you've got to do these
Dodgy.
things. Yeah. Another name and shame that came out of the group chats from a lot of people actually was Audible.
Oh.
Do you know Audible?
Yeah, but that's surprising to me.
Oh,
do tell.
Everybody said that they really, really struggled. So you end up having to go onto even if you've got like a UK or NZ account, you have to go onto the US website to cancel. And it took them hours with customer service to get out of. They were being charged, way overcharged, and it was a real problem. So, yeah.
That's quite
Audible.
Interesting to know. Mm-hmm. Okay, the last name and shame, I have one. And I wasn't sure when I brought this up originally if people knew about this company in New Zealand because it's an American company. I'm sure we all know the actress Kate Hudson.
Oh, yeah.
So Kate Hudson has a fabulous athletic wear brand called Fabletics. I think they started in the late 2000s, like 2012. So that doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a subscription-based model. So you can get your monthly activewear if you so feel inclined that you need new workout clothes once a month.
Who the heck needs workout clothes every month?
These are like Beverly Hills moms, I'm assuming. Anyhow, Fabletics was facing a class action lawsuit in the US because people were signing up and not realizing that they were going to be charged. I believe it was like the full cost of an outfit pretty much monthly. So we're talking like $100 or a couple $100. And there are people that lost out like $700 to $1,000 without realizing over the months. And caveat this with, if you don't realize you're losing $200 a month to something,
maybe
you're probably in a different position than me. However, there was just, thousands of people coming out and going, I've lost all this money to this company and I didn't realize, because the other thing was, it's not like they're just delivering clothes to your door. You would also have to go in and like select what you wanted.
Are you sort of building credit with them over that
kind
time?
Of,
you must be. But like, who on earth would buy some workout pants with in the back of their mind thinking, oh yeah, I'm signing myself up for a subscription?
Yes, and when you say about the building credits, another part of the lawsuit was that they were like their credits were illegally expiring. So I'm not sure what the laws are in America around like store credits, but people were building credits, and then Fabletics was going, actually, now you took too long, so you can't use them anymore. Literally just burned money. You said lighting $100 on fire. This is lighting like $1,000 on fire.
Yeah, that's terrible. That is so bad. So I think when it comes to things that you can look out for when it comes to subscription theft and just keeping an eye on stuff, I would, obviously we talk about PocketSmith a lot. It doesn't have to be PocketSmith budget tracking software that you use, but you should always be monitoring your accounts and checking what's going in and out, because the number of times that from me using PocketSmith, I've picked up on extra charges and things coming out of my account has been crazy. So, just keeping an eye on stuff, however you manage to do it, is super important.
And beware of the auto renew. Like, there's so many apps. I have to say again about this measuring tape thing. Like, when you download an app in the App Store and it says, free 7-day trials, free 10-day trials, sometimes they're longer. And you're like, okay, sick, I'm going to use all the premium features. But like, if you're not remembering after those 7 days.
I set a calendar reminder.
Same. Yeah. You know what I do actually? Hot tip for this, if you want to use the premium features. You can download the app, start the free trial, and immediately cancel, and you'll still get the full length of the trial, and you don't have to remember to cancel it at the end.
That is a hot tip. My hot tip was not as hot as that, because I set a calendar reminder like an idiot.
Very beneath me.
With the difficult cancellation process thing, all I'm going to say is just don't let them wear you down. If you have to spend 3.5 hours on the phone and get transferred 10 times, just hang in there. It's worth it. Don't let them win.
Maybe just do it on like a day where you've not got much on. You can do some dishes while you listen to the whole music.
Yeah. Another one is annual billing. And this is so tricky to get a handle on because if a payment comes out once a year, you kind of think, oh, shoot, I must cancel that next year. And the next year comes around and another $100 comes out. So
do you think I can cancel my rates bill?
That would be nice. But yeah, keep an eye out for those annual billing ones as well. Again, calendar reminder could be a really handy way of keeping track of those. Like, oh, my so-and-so thing is coming up in a week. Do I still want that this year? One of those is, I'm sure it's Headspace. There's like a meditation one that charges like a decent chunk
annually.
Every year. And if it comes out, then you're kind of like, well, I'm meditating for another year with this app.
So be mindful of your subscriptions.
Exactly.
My final thoughts on this are you need to be super mindful of reviewing your bank statements quite regularly to make sure there's no weird stuff coming out here and there. And, another one is you can go into your subscriptions on probably the Google Play Store if you're an Android user. Weird. The Apple Store. And you can actually check what stuff you're subscribed to through that account. And there might be some surprises in there.
They've added like a little subscriptions tab, hey? And it just lists them all. So go and check that out. I think that is, it's really important. And I am speaking to a lot of people at the moment who are kind of, now that the year's kind of back in the swing of things, end of financial year's coming up, it's probably a really good time for you to sit down, write down what all your costs and things are for the year. It's going to highlight what your subscriptions are and then track the budget over the next couple of months. And if there's anything unexpected that you're not using, cancel it. Like I say, they're not always needle movers, but if you're in that stage of life where cash is really tight, you're looking to save some money, this is a really easy win. You might spend an hour on it and you've saved $100, $200 for the year.
That's extra fun money.
Yeah.
So I would love to know in the comments of this episode, after you listen to this whole spiel, what is one subscription that you're going to cancel after you listen to this?
What's one subscription we're going to cancel?
Ooh. You know what? I actually really need to cancel my Hey You.
Oh my gosh, yes. Is that the reality TV one?
Yes.
Yes. And I actually think I'm going to cancel my Apple TV. Severance is nearly done, so
yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening today. Thank you to Lighthouse for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.